Hi, Patrick here. Have Cheetah Will View, and we are back for another edition of Dollar Theater. Last week we covered North by Northwest by Alfred Hitchcock, and today we're going to cover the first movie on our twin pack here, and that is Strangers on a Train, which stars Farley, Granger, Ruth Roman, and Robert Walker. Very classic film right here. Film noir at its finest. Um, so let's talk a little bit about the film, and then we'll get into the particulars and the aftermath after I'm done. So Guy Haynes is played by Farley Granger. He gets, and we see the movie opens up, and we see two men coming out of cabs. One we could tell it's really a fancy dandy, expensive clothes, beautifully tailored shoes, and new luggage. And then we see the other man come out of the cab, and he's not shabbily dressed. He definitely tells that his clothes are not nearly as catching as the first one, and his case that he walks with is pretty battered. Not falling apart bad, but you could tell it's been around the block a couple of times. Well, we don't see these men. We only see these men from the feet down, and they each walk inside the train, and the train's getting filled up. And one man, the fancy shoes is sitting on the right hand side, the working man's shoes on the left hand side, and when they sit opposite each other, their feet hit. And we'll talk about that more later because that's important. Um, so anyway, the train takes off, and we pan up, and we see both of our main players. Farley Granger plays Guy Haynes. He's he's handsome, and he's respectable looking. And then we see Bruno Anthony played by Robert Walker, and he is definitely a dandy. You can definitely tell he's comes from money. And well, he spots a guy, and he says, I've seen you before. And the guy looks up. He says, yes, I've seen you before. You're a Guy Haynes. You're a tennis player. And he goes, and he's happy to be recognized. So he says, yeah, I am. And then next thing you know, Robert Walker sits right next to him. I mean, he gets up from his seat and sits right next to him. No boundaries. He wants to know if he would like a smoke, and the guy says there's a smoke, and so he tries to light up one, and it doesn't work. So guy gives him his lighter, and it says from G to A, and that sparks Bruno, and the thing he's talking to Guy all about his history. He knows everything about Guy, his the matches he plays, the ambition he has about divorcing his wife to marry a senator's daughter. He knows Guy very, very well, too well. And of course, it makes Guy feel uncomfortable. Obviously, it makes him uncomfortable with him. But Bruno's charming and suave, and he comes across as like, yeah, I know, I talk a little bit too much. I'm sorry, I drink. I'm an alcoholic, and but they start talking about themselves, and we see that Guy, while he's hardworking, Bruno is the opposite. He's the opposite of whatever Guy is. He's not athletic. He's not competitive. He's not ambitious. He's none of that. He's a rich kid. He doesn't do anything. His dad's disappointed in him. So, but those two, the more they talk, and then they at first Guy seems, Bruno seems harmless, but the more he reveals a little bit about Guy, you can definitely see he gets more uncomfortable. Well, he's gonna go ahead and split and go have lunch, but unfortunately the cart is too full, and so they have to sit together still. And then Bruno comes up with this scheme that what if, because I want to get out of my father's thumb, and you want to get out of your wife's thumb. What if we would each murder somebody that the other person would like to see gone? What if we could do that? Swap murder, so to speak. Like, I'll kill your wife. Bruno says, I'll kill your wife, and you kill my dad. I mean, what if? It's a hypothetical. And they both have a couple cocktails in them, and it's just talk, idle talk. Bruno goes along with it, but he's really definitely uncomfortable being around Bruno. So, Bruno, but well, guy, he pretends he's enjoying the story, and like yeah, that would relieve a lot of my problems. But you could definitely see that he just wants to get away from Bruno, and so he does, and he leaves it behind an important clue. Then we see Guy who come down to see Miriam, but and Miriam's pregnant, but it ain't Guy's. It's not. So it's not Guy's baby, and Miriam says that she wants to end the marriage. First they're supposed to end their marriage. In fact, and Guy even gives her some money, but then she tells Guy that she doesn't want to end their marriage. Um, he said, she says, well, I'll say this baby's yours, and you're deserting me. Now this is all before DNA. This is all before DNA. So it would have been pretty damn difficult for them to run tests to see whose baby it was and whatnot. Um, so, uh, uh, so of course that's this is going to cause him a lot of heartache, a lot of pain. So he leaves, and but he was been rough with her in a public place. He grabbed her by the arms and shook her, and everybody saw this. So they saw the open argument they had, and so later on that night, Bruno follows Miriam to an amusement park, and then he kills her. He kills Guy's wife. So, but Guy has been going on the train back to Washington to see, hopefully the lady he's fallen in love with. Um, so, when Guy gets home, Bruno lets him know that Miriam is now dead, including the unborn child. So maybe it's Friday the 13th didn't have it wasn't as far fetched as I thought. So he killed this woman and her pregnant. He killed a pregnant woman. That's pretty rough for 1951, right? I mean, but then again, we're not 100% sure. We don't see any baby bump or anything like that. But just the idea that he would kill her and she's pregnant, pretty heavy for 51. Um, well, now Bruno's saying there, going like, well, now I killed Miriam. Now you got to kill my dad. And of course, Guy's now up against it. So, uh, Guy goes to see his girlfriend Anne, and who's the daughter of a senator, Senator Morton. And when he goes to Morton's house, he really does find out that his Miriam has been killed, and that Guy will probably be considered the number one suspect, since he did have a motive. Um, but Guy, he, despite being questioned, um, he's saying, I was on a train. I have no reason to kill her. Yes, we had a fight, but I wouldn't do that. Uh, you know, um, uh, and the only person that Guy says, well, listen, I have an alibi. I was on the train. I talked to an old professor. I talked to him. He can recognize. He can tell you who I am. But the professor happens to be so wiped out that he does not remember. So then they start tracking Guy. They start tracking Guy to see what he's been up to. He's trying to get out of it. Bruno's trying to, and Bruno starts popping up, and he starts messing with Guy's head. He really does. He starts messing with his head. Everywhere as Bruno turns around, there's some sort of Bruno angle going on, and Guy gets pissed. Um, he gets pissed off. He says, "I'm going to prove that I didn't do this." So he starts pushing back, even though Bruno sends him a package, willing to show him how to kill his dad. Guy has no problem with that, uh, and Anne tries to help out by going to Bruno's house and then explaining to his mom that their son is not only a murderer but a psychopath. And of course, no one's going to believe that. Bruno has one key piece of evidence that he really has that he can really put over a guy's head. Bruno does, and it's Yeah, and everything rockets toward the conclusion of how he can get out of it and get Bruno to become guilty, and realizing, and they meet up for a final confrontation, and then you see if the good guy actually won over the bad guy. Okay, so this is a classic film this is a classic film from Alfred Hitchcock. Um, the book itself was written in 1950 by Patricia Highsmith. Hitchcock bought the rights to the movie and started filming to the movie in 1950. It was released in June of 1951. It took less than a year for the movies to go from being started the filming to the final. Um, this was released by Warner Brothers. It was made for $1.6 million and it recouped $7 million at the box office. This was a big hit. It was filmed in black and white by this was filmed in black and white by Robert Burks. Now it stars Farley Granger as Guy, Ruth Roman as Anne, and Robert Walker as Bruno. Now, it's really important that when you watch the movie, you'll notice on the screenplay, it'll say screenplay written by Raymond Chandler and Susanne Osmande. Not true. Raymond Chandler had zero to do with the movie. Initially, him and Hitchcock met to discuss about filming a movie, but because Hitchcock happened to be a admirer of Chandler's, and he thought, well, I'll just get him to do it. But the more the two gentlemen met, the less they liked each other personally. And so it got to be the end where Hitchcock just sent a note to Chandler saying, we're not doing this together. So Raymond Chandler was very happy about that, and he had no tears shed. Uh, so um, the casting and the themes in this movie are really interesting. I was sitting here watching Jen from the Grave, and with her son's transitioning, Velvet, and our good friend Emily, also known as Martin, anthropomorphic fiend. They were talking about gay cinema. First time I've ever heard anybody do that in our community. They had, and I'm going to put that down in the description boxes. I do think it's important for you guys to take a look at it. And what's really interesting is we're talking about homosexuality in cinema, there's a lot of movies that were talked about, but maybe I missed this one or not. But this is a critical movie. This was very, very homoerotic. Just the way that Hitchcock allowed the book itself implies it. Hitchcock took it and ran with it to a different level, and the way that Bruno and Guy meet, tailor made, lifted up from. I mean, if you would have put a girl in that in neither one of their shoes, we would have called that a meet cute. But the fact and the way that Bruno slides over, breaking the boundary of Guy. I mean, they're close together and they're talking, and you could definitely tell that there's a give and take there. It's really obvious. Um, I'm not sure how that was received back in 1951. I think it probably went over everybody's head back then, because honestly, I don't think if you meant for that to happen and you said, well, yeah, we wanted to make it a little like those two guys were flirtatious, that wouldn't have worked in 51. That just would not have worked. But the way that, and this is not the first time. This is not the first time. And speaking of Raymond Chandler, if you go back to a lot of these film noirs or these action movies, there is a lot of gay subtext in a lot of these movies. Go back to the Maltese Falcon. There was what they called a gunso. Not a gunman, but gunso. Basically what it was a henchman that had a relationship with a gang boss, with a criminal boss. Gunso as a gunso. We saw that. We saw that, and also in North by Northwest. If you look really close at that, we see that Raymond Landau's character definitely has eyes for James Mason. Definitely has eyes for James Mason. There's no doubt about that. You go back and watch that movie and tell me that's you don't pick up on that. And again, we had it here. Alfred Hitchcock was a master at that as well. You go back to Psycho. There's Anthony Perkins. What's he doing? He's cross-dressing. He's cross-dressing. He's as he's dressing up in his mom's clothes. Um, this is Hitchcock. He wasn't afraid to expound on that. And looking back at his movies and seeing this, he really is cutting edge in that respect. Um, and not maybe not. I mean, Patricia Highsmith did it as well, but her look is here. Hitchcock saw it and raised it. Like, okay, she's implying it in the book. I'm gonna show it on the camera, and that's what he did. And you could definitely see that Bruno is enamored of Guy, and it's just isn't just for him killing his dad either. Interesting storyline. Robert Walker, who has starred in a lot of roles, but mostly as a country bumpkin, an innocent, or what have you. This is his first really dastardly role, and you can definitely tell that he has a lot of fun with it. His Bruno he is he's a classic villain. Smooth, debonair, witty, humorous, but really dark and really deadly, and not afraid to do anything that he can. I really enjoyed this movie quite a bit. I dare say, I mean, this is both movies are different, but they're both excellent, and I'm glad I talked about it. I haven't done a lot of Hitchcock recently, but I really enjoy both my Hitchcock movies, and yeah, hopefully we'll be doing some more. All right. Uh, we're gonna stay in the 50s one more time next week. That's right. We're gonna be we're gonna stay in the 50s. We've done three movies in a row from the 50s. We're gonna do one more, and then we're going to the 70s for 3 weeks on Dollar Theater. Going to the 70s, doing something different too. Something I haven't tried doing yet, but we're gonna try to do it on Dollar Theater coming up soon. All right. I really enjoyed doing this one here. I hope you stayed for the whole thing. If you did, please drop down a comment saying, "Hey, I stayed." And also let me know what your favorite Hitchcock movie was. I'd like to know your favorite Hitchcock movie. And if you have seen Strangers on a Train, what did you think about it? Love to hear your thoughts. Oh, there's one thing I will say about this. While there was no special features for North by Northwest, there is a director's commentary for, well, I should say, a editorial commentary for Strangers on a Train, which I highly recommend you listen to. All right. Again, I'm Patrick from Half Cheater Will View. This has been Dollar Theater. Dollar Theater was a series conceived by our good friend Hobbs Horror, where we watch and review movies that we have watched that we have gotten for $1.25 or less. I paid 12.5 cents for this, for Strangers on a Train. Um, but yeah, so if you want to get into Dollar Theater, you can contact me. Say, how do I get into Dollar Theater? Send me a note on my Instagram. I'll put that link down there as below as well. And if you want to get into Dollar Theater, I'll show you how to do it. All right, thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.